realistically, who is wiping in the Big 26? This guy? Yeah, no. Most real people these days don't have the time for such novelties. We got money to make, but it really makes you wonder just which Fallout characters would wipe, and since I'm making this a series, why not propose another question? Which Fallout 2 characters let it crust? Now, you read the title, you've seen my other Letting It Crust video, hopefully, so you probably know the rules, but if you don't, let me clue you in. I'm going to be going over every relevant character in Fallout 2 and determining on whether or not they let it crust using evidence from the lore. Now, compared to the last Letting It Crust video where I just yapped to fill up runtime, I'm going to be spending considerably less time on each character because Fallout 2 has a lot of relevant characters. So, make sure you pay full attention, you don't want to get left behind. So with that being said, let's do this. Much like Fallout 1, Fallout 2 has a number of starting preset characters to choose from, who are all ugly as shit in their own way. However, unlike Fallout 1, all of the starting characters in this game are tribals, who live in the wasteland in tents and probably shit in holes. Shista is no different, as she is one of these tribals. Shista is known to be quite charismatic, and what's more charismatic than letting the poop crust over your bumhole? Anyways, none of it matters, we're all gonna die, there's no toilet paper, so Shista lets it crust. Now we got... wait, am I reading this right? Minigan? Fuck kinda name is that? If you're watching this video and your name is Minigan, just know, you really aren't welcome here. Now, Minigan is an agile little prick who lives in a tent, so I think we all know the answer to this one. Minigan lets it crust. Oh Narg, my beautiful baby boy, our beautiful Alabamian incest baby, or at least my long lost one. I really want to write like a paragraph about how much I like Narg and how much of an interesting character he is, but I really can't because look at the title. It says which Fallout 2 characters let it crust, and Narg is one of those characters. So if it ain't about his asshole, I ain't talking. Just look at him. Do I even need to say anything else? He mega lets it crust. Now for known fan favorite, Bess the Cow. Now, I have nearly 200 hours in this game, and have never seen, heard, or laid eyes on this cow until looking on the wiki for this video. And since she's a companion, I think, we gotta cover her. Now Bess is an interesting character for this list, as she's quite polarizing. On one hand, Bess is a fucking cow with no opposable thumbs, but on the other, a cow wiping its own ass is the most Fallout thing out there. However, I unfortunately have to think rational and assume the cow that rolls in its own shit lets it crust. Our first ugly talking head, and definitely not our last, we got Cass.
Nobody's dick's that long. Not even Long Dick Johnson, and he had a fucking long dick.
Not that Cass, idiot. John Cassidy the First. Yeah, no. I'd rather the first one. Can we go back? This fellow looks like a mechanism of some kind. Now, John resides in Vault City, which is a known racism hub, but worse, a wiping hub. So, it really ain't looking good for our boy. The one redeeming quality for John is that he's one of the boys, and the boys don't wipe, which kinda argues that he lets it crust. However, I think it's too little and too late, so therefore, with a heavy heart, John Cassidy does not let it crust. Davin of Modoc. This sure is a character. He walks, he talks, he does everything a character usually does. Yet it's still Davin, and you've still never heard of him. Oh, that is, unless you turn Fallout 2 into a dating simulator and marry him. And since he's civilized enough to live in a house and get married, Davin clearly wipes. Now, the next three characters we have are all dogs, who are including, but not limited to, Dogmeat, Pariah Dog, and Laddie. I don't know if these can even be considered characters rather than good boys, but they're companions, so technically count for the list. I'm nothing if not a creature of habit. I won't have as big of a stitch as the Fallout 1 video, but these are dogs! How are they wiping? They let it crust! Enough said! Okay, enough bullshit. Actual fan favorite here. We got Gorus, the one Deathclaw companion that is coincidentally half of the fandom's favorite companion. Now, Gorus is an animal, so naturally he can't wipe. However, Gorus has that intellectual dog in him. He's really smart and would certainly want to wipe, coming from a known intellectual, NoodleGod665. However, Gorus has the heart of a wiper, but unfortunately, his biology and upbringing dictate otherwise. Some would argue that Gorus is a wiper trapped in a cruster's body, much like myself. So therefore, I'm not out of choice. Gorus lets it crust. The next two characters, like the other K9s on the list, have an argument for not even being on the list entirely, but these ones are slightly less character-like, as they aren't just good boys. They're also dirty synths, so they have less reason to be on the list, but fuck it, we ball, I guess. We got Robodog and K9. Now, I know I just said the other three dogs on the list let it crust because they're dogs, but these aren't mere dogs. They're something far greater. Marvels of German engineering, if you will. And I believe that since they were developed by the evil Enclave or whoever, they decided to torture these dogs in the worst way possible. They made it so that they have an automatic bidet mechanism that triggers every time they poop. Such evil like this makes me thankful that this is just a game. So yeah, these dogs are being tortured with the pain of not letting it crust, much like most of society. Okay, it's time for Lenny, the fucking GOAT, who, at the point of Fallout 2, is more crust than man, so it's safe to say, Lenny lets it crust. Sorry, Lenny fans, I don't have much to go off, it really isn't that deep. Coming straight from the Dream Fallout blunt rotation, we got Marcus, who is what we in the business like to call a big green idiot, known to inferiors as super mutants. Marcus in this game is much different from how most people know him in New Vegas. He's less introspective, insightful, and heck, probably smells worse. I don't know. Could just be the horrifying Clayhead talking though. All of which most likely argue a crusty Marcus. Furthermore, similar to me IRL, the fact that Marcus is most likely too gigantically muscular to wipe leads me to the conclusion that Marku the Cruster lets it crust. Now it's time for everyone's favorite character that you can marry in a Fallout game. We got Miria, who the wiki literally describes as the resident prostitute of MODOK, which you really hate to see. It's always unfortunate seeing another girl start an OnlyFans and not give me a discount. So based purely on the wiki statement, I'm going to assume that Miria has to wipe and keep it clean down there for all the traffic, or just for the chosen one. I can fix her, I swear. So Miria does not let it crust. Ew, Myron! Forget the fact that I'm discussing the wiping habits of fictional characters. This is the grossest part of the video, bar none. This guy is such an annoying little sniveling loser, it's not even funny. His behavior is not acceptable, unless your name is Noodle God, and last I checked, Myron's name is not Noodle God. Creepiness aside though, Myron is a genius. Consider him the young Sheldon of Fallout, including the perversion. I know in the Fallout 1 letting it crust video, I argued that smart people are more likely to wipe, but come on man, it's Myron. He's disgusting. He literally works with shit. So is it really a stretch to assume that Myron lets it crust? So the verdict, Myron does not wipe. The third robot of the list, unsurprisingly, except this one isn't a dog, Skynet from the hit game Fallout 2, is essentially a rogue AI that's evil, but not really. He mostly just edges you. He's just misunderstood. Skynet was a victim of circumstance, essentially being locked in a facility for over a century alone, and with no toilet paper, bear in mind, so Skynet lets it Are we serious? It's a robot. He doesn't even poo. Think, viewer, think! What will Skynet have after 500 years? Well, not shit, that's for sure. So, under the basis that Skynet can't shit, he can't wipe. So Skynet lets it crust. Sulik, my glorious king. Ignoring all the times I blow him to pieces aside, I'm actually quite the Sulik fan. Him and I have very similar real-world lives, except instead of being in debt to Buckners, I'm in debt to the IRS. Sulik is also a tribal, living in one of Fallout's most primitive tribes, actually putting Arroyo to shame. So, I see no shame in admitting that Sulik lets it crust. Vic the Trader. There's so much I have to say about him. He's fat, balding. Oh, and he's a slave. And considering that he's a slave, and slave owners are assholes most of the time, he probably wasn't given the luxury of TP. Toilet paper for short if you didn't know. So Vic, at the time of finding him in Fallout 2, lets it crust. Ugh. You know what? No, Myron is still worse. The Arroyo Elder is the daughter of the Vault Dweller, who is a known wiper. Wait, does this mean maybe just maybe she wipes? No, this isn't the circumcision video. You can't just nepo baby your way into wiping. The people of Arroyo are basically feral, and furthermore, they don't even have access to TP, so they literally have no way of letting it crust. That's his name? Hakunin? Hakunin? I genuinely forgot bro had a name. Anyways, this interesting looking fellow has very interesting biology, like to the point where I don't even know if he's human. He does have psychic powers, which would make wiping your ass infinitely less stressful, but it doesn't matter. The game is always rigged. The house always wins. The house in this scenario is feces, and you are the TP. Hakunin, despite having the means to wipe very easily, still doesn't have TP and has lived his whole life not wiping, so Hakunin lets it crust. Big time. You guys don't know how tempted I was to just completely copy and paste the Herald segment from the last Letting It Crust video. It would have been hilarious. But no, I guess I'm just a good person with a strong sense of integrity and justice, and a big heart. Gosh, I wish I wasn't such a good person. This part is easy regardless of blatant plagiarism though, because it's Herald and he's arguably more crusty since Fallout 1. In fact, I would go as far as to say that it's become so bad that Herald's bumhole is completely fused shut. Herald, also in addition to feces, has a tree coming out of his head. I don't know how that's relevant, but it's kinda cool. Herald lets it crust so hard that I believe an argument could be made for Fallout 2 Herald versus the Master. Huh. The crustiest man of today versus the crustiest man or thing of history. Metzger is one of the most unlikable characters in Fallout 2. Now, is it because he owns slaves? Yeah. Is it because he's a massive asshole? Also, yeah. He's just a really brash, close-minded individual, which really reflects in his asshole. He has the Crusters mentality, like, he's not a very insightful individual. However, Metzger is also a greedy asshole, and I feel like he would hoard all of the TP, toilet paper, just so nobody else can wipe. My least favorite kind of Cruster, the fascist. So, until we, yes we, slime out Metzger, he lets it crust. Oh my god, it's her! This woman is my kryptonite. When I say she's my least favorite character in fiction, don't take that as a statement. That's a fucking promise. Any fictional or historical figure, anyone you can think of, has probably given me more joy than this biatch. She's just so mean and so bossy. And the final nail in the coffin is that she runs a slave trade, so she isn't even a morally good person. Wait, no, I take that back. The final nail in the coffin is that she's not even fun to discuss in terms of this video. She's just a standard top 1% stick up her ass rich fascist asshole whose status isn't even in question. So Joanne, germaphobe all over Lynette, does not let it crust. Tandy is such a baddie in this game, oh my lord. She traded the under 18 illegal to goon 2 look for the mummy look, which honestly really suits her as she stands on business. Now, despite appearances, Tandy is still human, and literally the president of the United States. Wait, no, wrong faction. President of the NCR. And, you tell me, does the president wipe his ass? Now, I am aware that Tandy in Fallout 1 didn't wipe. However, she was just a stupid kid back then, like, none of us wiped back then. But now, she has responsibility. Tandy probably has a good, 5% of the TP in California at the time of Fallout 2, and this number only grows until she dies, so why wouldn't she wipe? So Tandy, surprisingly and crazy character growth since the first game, now wipes. Now, I'm counting the Enclave Guard and Enclave Communications Officer in the same segment because they're both unnamed and follow the same fascist government. Now, these fine gentlemen don't give us much information on their faces or personalities. Hell, we don't even get their voices. So, don't expect an accurate answer until the Fallout 2 Super Ultimate Collector's Edition that has spreads of every character's asshole. Now, these two work for the US government, and the US government do not believe in artistic expression through any means, especially using our asses, which leads me to believe that the Enclave Guard and Communications Officer wipe. Sergeant Ark Dornan, despite being one of the funniest characters in the Fallout lore, kinda has a massive stick up his ass. In fact, he would fit quite well in the Power Bottom saga. However, now is not the time for Power Bottoms. Dornan is just a giant stickler in terms of following the rules, and since the Enclave are evil and hate letting it crust, I feel as if it would be very likely that Ark Dornan would follow that rule like a good boy. So, Sergeant Ark Dornan, in the prospect of being a good, subservient little boy, wipes. Like me. Now for a question that every pure-blooded American is probably asked. Second time now. Does the president wipe his ass? Well, President Dick Richardson of the Enclave, much like most evil geniuses, has comical levels of resources, along with being the leader of the most powerful post-war faction, potentially in the Fallout universe. You thought. No. Richardson is very much implied to be an oaf who doesn't know what he's doing, most likely a political puppet to represent whoever's behind the Enclave, who, let's face it, is probably going to show up in the Fallout TV show Season 4. I'm calling it now. It's Janie Howard. She's plotting something, I swear. But yeah, Richardson, much like most of us, has a very limited amount of freedom and even less autonomy. Consider him like a fish up a hobo's ass. Much like the fish, he thinks he can break free from the prison, whether it be the anal cavity of the hobo or the constant orders of the Enclave. And he probably could, however, at the cost of losing everything. Okay, I'm yapping, but what I'm trying to say is that President Richardson has to follow the Enclave's regulations, i.e., wiping. Even if he doesn't want to, the so-called president unwillingly wipes. And then there was one. Secret Service Special Agent Frank Horgan. This guy is iconic. Like, he's bred a whole new generation of Fallout LARPers who think Frank Horgan is their favorite character despite never playing Fallout 2. But hey, I can't really judge them because Frank really is that guy. As for the state of Frank's ass, unfortunately, unlike the Fallout 1 letting it crust video, we didn't save our crustiest character for last, i.e. the Master from Fallout 1. In fact, the whole video has been going downhill since Herald, very much like the Fallout franchise. Frank is in the Enclave, who are known germaphobes, so he wipes, right? End video? No, that's not how the story goes. You underestimate just how much of that guy Frank Horgan is. Unlike the President, Horgan experiences true freedom. The whole Enclave fears him and hate him. He doesn't need to abide by their rules. I mean, he's a goddamn mutant for fuck's sakes. The Enclave's whole thing is mutant genocide, and Horgan lives? Yeah, because he's just that guy. So Frank Horgan, unlike you and me, has a choice. He has the option to let it crust. Actually, wait, never mind. He's fucking giant. I don't think he can even reach back there. He's like one of those professional bodybuilders who can't wipe. So yeah, it's a lame answer, but Frank Horgan lets it crust. Sorry for the cop-out answer. Well, chat, that marks the end of which Fallout 2 characters let it crust. If this video gets like 100 likes, then I'll make a Fallout 3 letting it crust video that I will half-ass the shit out of. But don't worry, I'm not selling out just yet. Consider the potential Fallout 3 video as more of a filler episode. Think of it as more of an appetizer for the light at the end of the tunnel, which is which Fallout New Vegas characters let it crust, which I have some things to say about. That one might be a bit of a long one. So yeah, blow this shit up and maybe I'll talk about Boone. Once again, as always, huge thank you for making it this far into the video. I love all of you as much as a parasocial relationship will allow me. Make sure to join the Discord and cash at me $500. As always, God bless the Enclave. God bless America. Noodle God signing off.